What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 3 new most broken builds in part of Exile's 2 new update, the Dawn of the Hunt. So in this guide I will give you a quick overview of each setup, then I will explain what skill gems and upgrades should you focus on, then as well we'll see what is the best gear and how to get it, and then finally we will go over the passive skill tree, stats, your skill rotations, and even what charm should you use, so we would be able to get the highest damage possible and much more. And before we continue, thanks to the Time Saver. They are a pro website that provides POE2 services like cheap currency, custom builds, boosting and top quality items, orbs and much more. They also have a lot of comments on Trustpilot and this website is really worth a try. So make sure to check them out by using my link in the description. This setup is known as the Bonestorm Witch build, and this skill by itself is a slow clearing ability, but with the right gems, passives and synergies, we can make it 100 times better, and this is exactly what we have right here. This build also has 2 variants, so going full crit chance, what I will personally be doing for myself, or then perhaps go with the detonate a dead variant. Both of these will excel at different things, so which one you choose is up to you. This variant, so the full crit chance setup, excels at huge amount of damage. We won't be focusing on anything else besides the massive crits and stacking as much life as possible, because the more life/defense we have, the more damage we can do in return. Also, at some point in the later game, some lowered gear players might run into a mana problem, but lucky for us, the witch has many tools to address this problem, and with optimized gear we need nothing more than a single stat roll on our weapon or the gear to completely solve this issue. So if you are finally looking for a super fun blood mage build that primarily doesn't use the life leech but instead goes full life and full crit, then this is the one for you. So let me show you the build, and for the main class I have chosen to go with the witch and our ascendancy is the blood mage. Then for the first skill we have the Bonestorm with support gems such as the brutality, arcane tempo, inevitable critical and the super critical. Then second we got the bone cage with the spell cascade, lockdown and the splinter. Then next we got the life remnant with the vitality, clarity and the cannibalism. Then next we have the combat frenzy with the perfusion, pin and the potential. And finally for the last one we got the bone blast with no support gems. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at the spell and minion damage increase node. Then next we want to keep on going like this until we get to our first stop, which is the potent incantation. Then now keep on going to the right side to get this critical exploit. Then now we circle back a little and keep going like this until we get the sudden escalation. Then now from this point we go down like this. Then take the right path and keep going until this point, and then keep going all the way up until the tempered mind. Then next we go down a bit and then take right, which will take us all the way to our first keystone, the resonance. Then from this point we want to circle back again and simply get the last 2 priority nodes called the power within and the last 4 power. And then finally from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of the nodes that we got are important, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then in the late game to make it even more powerful. Also, as far as attributes go, so you just simply want to fill your attribute requirements for the gear and skill gems, and then after that, spend the rest of your leftover attributes into more strength. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for our ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the sanguimancy, but please don't get it too early. This node is required for every blood mage, and this ability does ton of self damage, and it can be quite hard to mitigate this in the early game. So I recommend for you to wait until you complete your second trial, and then take your first and second ascendancy at the same time. So then after the second trial you want to get the grasping wounds. This one will make you significantly tankier and synergize very well with the sanguimancy. So as I said before, get both these ascendancies at the same time. Then next take the gore spike. This will scale off your maximum life and is a big damage boost. And then finally for the fourth option you want to take the crimson power, as this will give you a massive energy shield body armor, and this will also scale really well with our previous gore spike. Next up we have our atlas passives, and the general idea behind this is to aim for bonus passives that spawn a lot of grouped up monsters, such as in expeditions or the rituals. Our Bonestorm blood mage build won't be doing crazy amount of damage against single targets, so we mainly want to do very small farming in boss maps or the essences. So then when we start, we wanna first of all get this bottom right side like this, then from here go like this until we get all the way to the left side. And then when all of these passives are done, then now we go again to the middle, and now take the middle path and then go a bit to the left again and get all of these nodes. Then next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the attuned wand with the mana drain, and for the extra bonuses we want increased spell damage, plus 3 levels to all physical spell skills, then also increased critical hit chance, and more percentage to critical damage bonus. Next we also have the offhand called the Emblem Crash Shield, with the armor and energy shield. This specific shield is the best job that I got, but it's not required. However, for bonuses we want max life, cold and fire resistance. Remember that our main goal is to stack as much life and resistances as possible, so that's why you will see few stats repeating all over again. Then for the helmet we have the Expert Vigor Tiara with the energy shield, and for more we want max life, cold and fire resistance. Then for the chest we have the Guild Vestments with the armor and energy shield. And for bonus stats we need max life, evasion rating and the fire resistance. Then for the belt we have the Rawhide belt with the increased recovery to the flask, and for the extras we want max life, lightning and chaos resistance. Then for the gloves we got the Torn gloves with the energy shield, and for more we want max life, increased armor and evasion. Then for boots we're using the Bushwhack with the evasion. For this build we will need to get these boots or use the pin gem on our combat frenzy. So which option you prefer, it's up to you. But if you have the pin, then the boots are not required, but still very powerful. So get it or not, but at least go with as high movement speed as possible. Then also get evasion rating and more to dexterity. Then for the first ring, get the ruby ring with fire resistance, and for more we want max life, lightning and chaos resistance. While on the second one we got the sapphire ring with cold resistance, and for more get max life, fire or lightning resistance. And finally for the amulet, get the solar amulet with more to spirit and max life. No matter which gear you choose, at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. Our main rotation will be the same, no matter if you choose to go with the full crit or the detonator variant. So for weak enemies we simply want to choose a target, and then just spam the Bonestorm with the Bone Cage. And then for bosses or elites we still do the same thing, just this time also integrate the Bone Blast with the Bonestorm and the Bone Cage, and it's that easy. Most of our buffs will work in the background, which will give us the real damage, so then all you have to do is get used to the mechanics, which are mainly to use the channeling trick, then to be kiting enemies 24/7 and pick up the life remnants. And then from here just spam the Bonestorm and the Bone Cage and have fun. This setup's main focus is to run and press from 1 to 2 skills and then target big enemy groups to then weaken them and explode. One of the most powerful skills that we have in our arsenal is the Shockwave totem, and as you can see from the gameplay, we are just running into the enemies and one-shotting them without even trying. Also, our Ancestral Warrior totem and the Scavenge plating makes the most out of this by effectively extending the damage of this hit many times over, in order to kill big targets like the bosses or tanky rare monsters. Of course, like most melee builds, the armor explosion was nerfed, but our particular setup wasn't impacted as much as other melee builds, so currently this is by far one of the best warrior builds in the game. If you are looking for a powerful auto AoV machine to target enemies and delete them in split seconds, then this is the one for you. So let me show you the build, and for the main class I have chosen to go with the warrior, and our ascendancy is the Warbringer. Then for the first skill we have the Mage Strike with the support gem called the Rage, Armor Explosion, Magnified Effect and the Primal Armament. And even after the new changes on how the Armor Breaker works, the Mage Strike still works perfectly fine, as long as you use it with the Cultist Great Hammer. Then second we got the Shockwave totem with Inspiration, Close Combat and Overpower. Then next we got the Scavenge plating with the Precision, Vitality and Clarity. Next we have the Ancestral Warrior totem with the Sunder, Super Critical and Overabundance. Next up we have the Time of the Need with Fast Forward, Herbalism and Clarity. And finally for the last one we are using the Hammer of the Gods with Fist of War, Concentrated Effect, Exploit Weakness and Heft. Most of this setup is structured around using the Shockwave totem and the Mage Strike to delete enemies in split seconds, so we use gems and skills that will support and increase their size and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. And as our build is already super broken, so we don't have to use more than these 6 active skill gems. Next up we have our passive tree, And if you're interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at this melee damage node, and then go like this until we get all of these 4. So brutal, smash, sturdy metal, and relentless. Then next up we want to go to this top right side like this, and then go to the left, until we get this whole thing. So ancestral reach and the supportive ancestors. Next we circle back a little, and this time keep going until we reach the devastation node. Then next up we keep going and take the right side, and then keep going more until we get both of these. So carving earth and hardened wood. Then now keep moving forwards until the end. And from here we want to get both of these totem nodes. Which side you choose first doesn't really matter as long as you get both of them. And then finally from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then in the late game to make it even more powerful. Also, as far as attributes go, you just simply want to fulfill your attribute requirements to gear and skill gems, and then spend the rest of your leftover attributes into more strength. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for our Ascendancy build this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Anvil's Weight, then second get the Imploding Impacts, then third we want the Answered Call, and then finally for the fourth option go with the Wooden Wall. Next up we have our Atlas passives, and the general idea behind this is to aim for bonus stats that spawn a lot of grouped up monsters, such as in expeditions or in rituals. Our warrior build is also great at single target DPS, so we can also spend a bit points into farming boss maps or essences. So when we start, we want to first of all get to this bottom right side like this. Then from here we want to go until we get all the way to this keystone called the Deadly Evolution. Then next we go back to the middle, and this time take the bottom left side and get all of these passives. And then when all of these are done, then now we go again to the middle and now take the middle path and unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you prefer. Next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Cultist Great Hammer, which is special, because its base stat does that our strike now deals splash damage to the targets within 1.8 meter range. And as I said, after the new changes to how the armor breaker works, the mace strike will now still work perfectly fine, but you specifically have to use this weapon, or otherwise switch the mace strike skill for something different like the Stampede. And then for bonus stats we want increased physical damage, more armor, and more levels of all melee skills. Then for the helmet we have the Warrior Great Helm with armor. And for more we want max life, more accuracy, more intelligence, and fire resistance. Then for chest we have the advanced full plate with armor. And for more we need max life, armor, and cold resistance. Then for the belt we have the Rawhide belt with 20% quicker flask recovery. And for bonus stats we want max life, more armor, and +2 to charm slots. Then for gloves we got the Interested gloves with energy shield. And for more we need max life, max mana, and more levels to all melee skills. Then for boots we are using the advanced bronze greaves with armor. And for more we for sure want increased movement speed, and then also max life and resistances like cold and fire. Then for our first ring we got the ruby ring with fire resistance. And for more we'd want add physical damage, more intelligence, and lightning resistance. While on the second one we have the topaz ring with lightning resistance. And for more we need max life, max mana, more strength, and chaos resistance. And then finally for the amulet we got the crimson amulet with life regen per second. And for more we want max life, more armor, more dexterity, and fire resistance. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is a starter setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. Then next we have runes. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. And to be honest, because of our setup, this build will be extremely powerful, no matter in what order you use your skills. But if you're interested in the most optimized damage rotation, then here it is. So for both clearing and bossing, you want to place down your Shockwave totem, and Ancestral Warrior, which is linked with the Sunder totem. And then you can also use the Mace Strike to get a bit of extra damage in, and then later to generate Rage as well. And finally, when you are at high tier maps and at the full endgame, you'll also be wanting to use the Hammer of the Gods on stunned bosses. But since it relies on having more than just plus levels to all melee skills on your weapon, so it might not deal as much damage for you as it does for other builds. And that's why our main objective will be to focusing on crazy AoE damage and less at single targets. So this setup is a new combo between the Spark Sorceress and the Cast Comet and the Time Freeze. Our build will rely on high spark crits rather than drowning them in hundreds of different sparks. This way our clear speed will be as good as any other sorceress, but against bosses is the place where we are going to shine. Our crit scaling will reach crazy levels of damage. Even if you don't one-shot the boss, then you will have about 13 to 14 seconds, plus 7 seconds and even 3 more additional seconds of the time stops in your disposal. So if you are ready to destroy enemies and pretty much one-shot the bosses, then this is the one for you. So let me show you the build, and for the main class we are going with the sorceress and our ascendancy is the chronomancer. Then for the first skill we have Time Freeze with the Wind Wave, second Wind and Unbreakable. Then second we got the Time Snap with no support gems. Then next we got Temporal Rift with Ingenuity. Next we have Temporal Chains with the Curse Ground, Encumbrance, Expanse, Magnified Effect and Ritualistic Curse. Then for the next one we have the Cast on Critical with the Comet, Spell Echo, Elemental Focus, Inspiration and the Concentrated Effect. Next we got Conductivity with the Heightened Curse and the Focus Curse. Next we got the Soul Offering with the Minion Mastery, Dance Maccabi and the Ablation. Next we have Frost Wall with the Icicle, Cold Mastery, Spell Cascade and the Cold Exposure. Next up we have the Archmage with the Clarity and the Lightning Mastery. And finally we are using the Spark with the Acceleration, Electrocute, Consider Casting, Arcane Surge and the Arcane Tempo. Most of this setup is structured around using our sparks for AoV and temporal chains with Time Freeze for the single target. So we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at the spell damage node, and then go like this while taking all of these 3, so the raw power, practice signs and the critical overload. Then now we keep on going until we get to the sudden escalation. Then from here again we keep going until the top and then take right. And then keep going until we get to the Whispers of the Doom, and then get both these lightning nodes. Then afterwards we keep going while taking pretty much all of these nodes right here, and then our second stop point is at this Eldritch Battery Keystone. And then finally from here we want to get all the way down here while taking these 3, so the True Strike, for the Juggler and the Deadly Force. And now from this point and onwards we can circle back and unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then later on the priority doesn't really matter that much. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Footprints in the Sand, then second now and again, then next we want the Ultimate Command, and then finally select the Unbound and Core. So feel free to use this exact same path as we have right here, and don't forget to check this video's description to find the link for this website, and this should make it easier for you to follow the path. Next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Siphoning Wand, and for the bonus stats we want to gain damage as extra lightning damage, increase spell damage, more to max mana, more levels to all cold spells, increased mana regen and critical hit chance. Then also we got an offhand called the Expert Plummet Focus with Energy Shield. And for more we want increased spell and lightning damage, max mana, more to intelligence and increased mana regen and critical hit chance to spells. Then also we have the second weapon set, which is very important for our build to fully function. So for the weapon we got the Rattling Scepter with the max mana, reduced attribute requirements and more levels of all minion skills. While for our offhand we got the Crest of the Ardura Shield with increased armor and energy shield, more to intelligence and increased mana regen and cooldown recovery. Then for helmet we have the Expert Feather Tiara with energy shield, and for more we got max energy shield, max mana and more to fire and cold resistance. Then for the chest we have the Expert Kate Raiment with energy shield, and for more we want increased mana regen and flask mana recovery, more to spirit and chaos and lightning resistance. Then for the belt we have the Plate Belt with more to armor, max mana and cold and fire resistance. Then for gloves we got the Expert Sombri gloves with energy shield, and for more we want max energy shield, max mana and more to critical damage bonus. Then for boots we're using the Expert Feather Sandals with energy shield, and for more we need increased movement speed, max energy shield and max mana. Then for our first ring we got the Amethyst ring with the chaos resistance, And for more we want increased lightning damage, max mana, increased cast speed and mana regen. While for the second one we have the Breach Ring with increased cold and lightning damage, max mana, increased cast speed and increased mana regen rate. And then finally for Amulet we have the Solar Amulet with more to Spirit. And for bonus stats we want max mana, more to Spirit and increased mana regen. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is the best case scenario setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. So our rotation is quite simple, but you will need to get used to it. So what we want to do is first of all start by using the temporal chains. Then we follow that up with the conductivity. Then next use the time freeze in the combination with the soul offering. Then next we also want to activate the frost wall, and then from here just spam the sparks until the boss dies. But mainly for AoE and weak enemies, we basically will turn into a spark build. So just keep spamming sparks and see all of these crazy crits popping off left and right. The only thing you need to keep in mind is the defense. Our build does not have energy shields, so mind over matter is a good defensive layer, but should not be heavily relied on in the endgame. While the time freeze has a high cooldown, so feel free to use it 24/7. Then also the second wind for 33% no cooldown. And then the time snap reset will allow you to use the time freeze continuously in the combat. Overall, if you can master these skills, then you will become unkillable with very high DPS output at the same time.